Welcome to this explainer. We've all had those moments, right? Where we just feel totally stuck, repeating the exact same cycles day in and day out. Well, today we're unpacking a fascinating framework that argues it is actually not a lack of willpower keeping you stuck at all, it's a biological program. And the best part? You can literally rewrite it in just 7 days.
So let me ask you something. Are you already living in the past before your feet even hit the floor in the morning? You might think you're waking up to a fresh start, but your brain is actually acting kind of like an old tape recorder. The very second you wake up, you start thinking about your problems. Now, those problems are tied to specific memories, and those memories are connected to past emotions. So instantly, you're playing back yesterday's cassette. You recall a problem, and boom, you feel sad or anxious or angry. Before you've even left your bed, your entire state of being is anchored in the past.
And then the routine starts. You wake up, grab your phone, check your usual apps, drink coffee from your favorite cup, and drive the exact same route to work. It feels completely normal to us, but it actually locks you into a deeply ingrained biological loop of stagnation. You go to work just to see the exact same people who push your exact same emotional buttons. It's just a seamless sequence of total predictability.
Because this repetition, it creates a literal routine, a memorized set of behaviors that functions exactly like computer software. By running this exact same routine every single day, you are handing your free will over to a subconscious autopilot. It is no longer you who's running the show, it's the program. You hurry home just to do it all over again the next day, having totally lost your free will to this invisible software.
And this is exactly why deciding to change feels so incredibly hard. The science tells us that by the time we hit age 35, 95% of who we are is a hardwired, subconscious set of memorized behaviors, unconscious habits, and emotional reactions. That leaves a tiny little 5% window for our conscious mind. The part of us that says, hey, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy, I want to be free.
Pitting your tiny 5% conscious desire against your 95% hardwired subconscious is literally like putting an average untrained guy up against an Olympic powerlifter in a weightlifting competition. It is a profound biological mismatch. It's absolutely no wonder the powerlifter wins. When the conscious mind fights the subconsciously programmed body, the muscle wins almost every single time, dragging you right back to the exact same life you were trying to escape.
And the stakes here are really high. People spend 70% of their lives living in survival mode, constantly anticipating worst-case scenarios based entirely on past stress. Think of it like this. In the infinite quantum field of potential, it's like sitting at a restaurant with an endless menu of incredible food and deliberately ordering the absolute worst possible meal on the page day after day after day.
So, what happens when you finally do decide to step up and change? Your body fights back. It actually prefers the familiar, even if that familiar state is miserable. The moment you step into the unknown, let's say you sit down to meditate, your body throws a tantrum. Suddenly your nose itches, or you magically remember an urgent email you forgot to send, or your brain, seemingly out of nowhere, serves up a painful memory from 20 years ago. This is your body actively resisting, essentially saying, come on, let's just give up and go back to our miserable but predictable life.
So how do we get past that powerlifter? Well, let's dive into entering the unknown and hacking the operating system. To bypass the analytical mind and get right into that operating system, we really have to look at what we're up against mentally. The average person has between 60,000 and 70,000 thoughts a day. And the real kicker, 90% of them are the exact same thoughts you had yesterday. I mean, your life cannot possibly change if 90% of your mental activity is just a rerun.
And this leads us to a massively powerful realization. Just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean it's true. You absolutely do not have to act on every passing impulse. Today, so many of us are victims of our own negative thoughts from the past. But once you realize those passing thoughts are just echoes of an old program, you completely regain the power to just let them float by unacted upon. Because if you don't catch those thoughts, this loop basically becomes your destiny. Your morning thoughts naturally lead to the same midday choices and behaviors, which then create the same evening experiences, leaving you with the exact same nighttime emotions. If you don't consciously interrupt this daily cycle, it just cascades down, permanently solidifying your old identity. Breaking that loop requires getting both the brain and the body on board. Think of your thoughts as the language of the brain, basically your internet modem. Your feelings, on the other hand, are the language of your body, the Wi-Fi connection. If the modem is plugged in but the Wi-Fi is off, you aren't connecting to anything, right?
To actually download your future, you have to mentally rehearse what you want while emotionally feeling it in your body ahead of the actual experience. You don't wait for the wealth to feel abundant. Feeling abundant actually generates the wealth. Which brings us to the core actionable takeaway for day, the 7-day rewire.
The ultimate tool for this 7-day rewire is meditation, but not just to relax on a cushion. The original meaning of the word meditation is actually to become familiar with. The true goal of this practice is to study your old toxic habits, your thoughts, and your emotional triggers so closely that they can no longer slip by your awareness unchecked. You study your old self so intensely that the very second it tries to take over, you catch it instantly.
Reprogramming your brain is exactly like tending a brand new garden. You can't just throw new seeds onto hard, rocky, weed-filled dirt and expect a beautiful plant to grow. You have to do the difficult, unglamorous work of clearing out the toxic past first, getting rid of the rocks and pulling out the old plants from last year. Only after you prepare the soil of your mind can you actually start planting the new seeds of your future. Now, pulling those weeds is going to be frustrating at first. Training your body to meditate is literally like trying to train a wild dog. You tell it to sit and it immediately bolts. The body says, hey, it's 8 a.m. We usually read emails and get super stressed right now. Why are we just sitting here? It desperately wants its predictable chemical state. But every single time you firmly catch your attention and bring it back to the present moment, you are telling the body that you are the mind. You assert that your will is greater than the old program.
And if you keep bringing that wild dog back over and over, eventually, the body sits down and obeys. When it finally surrenders to the conscious mind, you achieve a literal liberation of energy. You shift from being stuck in physical matter into pure energy, a wave of new potential. You achieve complete freedom from the chains of the familiar past that have kept you locked in that biological holding pattern for so long.
So, I want to leave you with this question. What kind of future will you choose to download in the next 7 days? You are no longer a victim of your biology, and you absolutely don't have to wait for success to feel successful. The Wi-Fi is on. What completely new reality are you going to intentionally create this week? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.